truly gentle and heedful of their ladies' need, with tempers temperamental. Pray caution now as you proceed. We beg your patience and your nerve, and swear we'll serve as best we can. And through dark hearts may shed some light upon the darker heart of man. How am I doing? Is this what you
It's perfect.
wanted?
Perfect. Please, carry on.
It's not a little too...
A little too...
Nothing. No, nothing. And through dark hearts may shed some light upon the darker heart of man. So watch us close, those keen of eye may some small secret understand. Those simple folk just see the smoke, they miss the switch, the sleight of Mr. Sleight.
Edwin, please.
Edwin.
Edwin Sleight, slim-framed and nimble-fingered, sharp of cheekbone and of mind, proud resident at the pulsating epicenter of the greatest city in the world, riding roughshod through streets on the brink of supernova, chasing dreams and demons with equal alacrity and never drawing breath. Edwin!
Edwin Sleight! Roll up, step up, ladies and gents, don't be shy. Come and see the incredible Edwin Sleight, man of a million mysteries.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Prepare to be amazed by the incredible and amazing feat of... No, that's not right. Prepare to be incredulous at the incredible and amazing feats.
Get off!
You've been wonderful. Get a safe carriage. That's Edwin Sleight. Tell your friends, it's Sleight with a E-I.
London was not kind to the young Edwin Sleight. As a rationalist, he took the city's indifference in his stride. But when met with the same response from its inhabitants, the rejection stung a little more. Furthermore, as a rationalist, he couldn't help but question the judgment of the free-thinking citizens who viewed him so unkindly. For clearly he was blessed with many admirable traits. A keen inquiring mind, a natural intelligence, a flair for artistry, and a lean, agile frame. To any objective criteria, he reasoned, there was nothing to suggest he shouldn't excel. And yet, once accumulated, Edwin seemed to amount to less than the sum of his parts, or rather like a collection of excellent ingredients which shouldn't necessarily be combined.
I'm like pineapple and herring. Pineapple and herring and gin.
A way with words was not his strongest suit, and the early performances of the amazing Mr. Sleight were not well received.
Amazing slightly, the papers would have declared, had any been present to witness them.
Roll up, come and see that slightly amazing Edmund Sleight.
No, Edwin. Edwin.
Edwin what? Is that a coin trick?
Oh, never mind.
But Edwin persevered. Tenacity, another of his talents.
And I believe these, madam, are your pearls. And I believe these, madam, just a minute, are your pearls. And I believe these, madam, are your pearls. Oh, God. God, it isn't fair. It isn't the slightest bit. And there you have it. The very heart of all my woes, slight by name and slight by nature. Slight hope, scant chance, the very faintest of impressions made, which should in my profession be a veritable boon, to slip through shadows imperceptibly, to vanish without the slightest trace. And yet the act of disappearance is somewhat less impressive when one's reappearance, and indeed departure, goes unnoticed.
And on this matter, his powers of perception were irrefutable. However, a solution was suggested, an outlandish scheme devised by his one friend and true confidant, Mr. Ben Baker.
This is absurd.
This is inspired.
Ben, please.
Lend a hand, the advertisement read. If your surname is Hand and your destiny is on the stage, report to 151 Mayfair on April 12th at noon and await further instructions.
I work alone.
You don't work at all. Picture it, Edwin. Sleight and hand. It's just what the act needs. Look at these. The Astounding Zenkwanza, Amazon Queen. Yuri, the Levitating Hun. Prince Ulrich, Demon Voyager. Now, you know as well as I do that Ulrich has not a drop of royal blood in him. Yuri is 2 midgets from Ealing, and the only astounding thing about Zenkwanza is that she manages to spell her name the same way twice. Image is everything.
I don't even live in Mayfair.
Of course not. But there they will receive a series of directions designed to test their cunning, resolve, and moral fibre to its breaking point, ultimately leading them to a den of such iniquity, such extravagant squalor and decay, such charismatic rot and intrigue. It could only have been constructed for the purpose by the greatest stage artist of the age.
You're talking about my apartment, aren't you?
Yes, I am.
Your name?
Herbert Hand, sir.
And what is your current occupation?
Oh, I'm a butcher, sir.
I see. Well, butchery and illusion are 2 quite different things, Mr. Hand. What makes you think this role would suit you?
Oh, well, on account of me not being a very good butcher, sir, so you needn't worry about any unwanted transferable skills.
I see.
Tell me, is not having a full complement of fingers likely to cause problems? Captain Fitzwilliam Montgomery Hand, reporting for duty, sir. Questionably discharged and ready for the front.
Wonderful. And in what way?
Of course, I decipher the true meaning of your rudimentary clues with ease, and I say, the treasure's as good as ours. I can sail with you tonight. Although, if you prefer to travel alone, we can liaise in Budapest next week. I must say, Mr. Sleight, it was quite the strangest proposal I'd ever seen. Of course, it'll be my daughter's hand you're after, not me own. Whoops. Although, if I was 20 years younger...
I think there may have been some kind of...
hold Jesus' hand, and he will guide the way. Ichabod Hand, or the Sawbridge Hands. Although if there are any other body parts you require, I dare say we could come to some arrangement.
I don't think that will be necessary.
Peter Paver, sir, at your service.
Mr. Paver? Yes, the advertisement did clearly specify.
And his bestest friend, Happy Handsworth, the helping hand.
Next!
Hand, you want hand, yes? I get you hand. Monkey hand, Grand Prix vision.
That's it, enough. Just get out, all of you, out!
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to trouble you. I'll be leaving then.
No, please, my apologies.
Oh, am I not too late?
No, not at all. No, I was just, never mind. Please, come in, Miss,
Hand.
Oh, God, of course.
Oh, but of course you knew that. It's a Virginia hand. It's a pleasure.
Well, all mine, I'm most sure. Please, sit.
Oh, I'll stand if you don't mind. Mr. Sleight. Yes, I must say you're quite everything I expected.
Oh, and what might that be?
Oh, that would be telling.
Miss Hand delicately, deliberately removes her lace gloves with a palpable sense of purpose.
The image of the metaphorical gauntlet thrown down, not for a moment lost on Mr. Sleight.
In truth, he found it a little obvious.
And smiled. A fleeting smile made all the more potent through its brevity, like the final sigh of a sexually charged mayfly. A sexually charged Victorian mayfly who has been taught that such displays are scandalous, shameful. But damn it all, a mayfly can only endure for so long, and so would throw caution to the wind and wantonly remove her gloves to any gentleman mayfly she pleases, laying bare indecently slender fingers in all their soft, pink glory.
May I take your gloves?
You may.
And my watch, Miss Hand. Quite impressive, nonetheless. Most impressive for an amateur.
Looking for this, Mr. Sleight?
What did you say your name was again?
Iphigenia Hand, whose ancestry was not necessarily Greek, but most definitely tragic. My father mysterious, my mother imperious, my cousins impetuous, my uncles quite lecherous, my nieces vainglorious, my nephews notorious, grandparents gone, and good name long squandered. The family as a whole maintains that sophisticated damp tang of mouldering aristocracy, blue blood running deep through blue veins like vintage Stilton laced with the unmistakable air of always being just on the turn, where something could still be salvaged perhaps, but all is undisputedly past its best. So now, when people ask me where I'm from, I tell them I was raised by gypsies.
So, where are you from?
I was raised by gypsies.
Touché, Miss Hand, touché.
Well, do you not think it proper for a lady to retain some air of mystery, a mystique, especially in our profession?
From one's audience, yes, but from one's partner,
I am to be your partner, then?
One task remained, to break the news to Iphigenia's parents.
She knew that without her family's sincere and heartfelt condemnation of her chosen path, she could never feel truly at ease.
Iphigenia rapped thrice upon the foreboding oak. Oh. Rapped thrice upon the foreboding oak.
Iphigenia's father was a kindly man, straight-backed and proud-whiskered, once radical, now tempered with the sagacity of late, early middle age. Still, the twinkle in his eye remained more puckish than avuncular, and if found in the right mood, would surely take his daughter's seeming rebellion as a fitting tribute. However, it was her mother who came to the door.
Darling, what a wonderful surprise.
Mother.
This is so unexpected.
Her mother possessed a high, reedy voice, lilting with its Mediterranean ancestry, but rung through with the unmistakable notes of bow bells and the remnants of a crippling lisp that had plagued her formative years. A strange, stooped woman with a club foot, but a ballerina's grace. She would scuttle, float, and spin across a room with a strange, ethereal air that seemed more animal than human. A sight that truly must be seen to be believed.
Let me see if your father's in.
He wasn't.
Are you sure?
Oh, Mother, we have so much to talk about. At length. Walk with me.
And yet, tragically, we are never to know what they discussed that fateful day, both parties refusing to speak of the incident again. Whatever the details, the outcome was clear, and Iphigenia received the denunciation she so sorely desired, leaving her free to pursue her life on the stage, unimpeded. Ladies and gentlemen, the enchanting Iphigenia Hand.
And the amazing Edward...
Edwin.
Edwin what?
Let's see, shall we?
And the astounding Edwin Sleight.
Godspeed. God bless.
To all.
Good night.
Did they really just...
I think they did.
Is it always like this?
Oh, yes, yes. Every audience is, well, there's always variations in them.
Is it customary to, well, should we toast? Or, oh, are there people we're meant to see? Will they want to see us? The people? I'm not sure which people exactly.
Yes, there may very well be. People, yes.
And would they want us to... Oh. Oh, do you think maybe there aren't people?
It's very hard to say, really. Maybe we maintain a sense of an illusion. Oh, a mystique. If we just...
A little mystique. Never hurt anyone.
Precisely.
Well, good night, Mr. Sleight.
Good night, Miss Hand.
Good night!
Extra, extra! See, stunned by a magic duo!
Sleight Hand leave London spellbound!
Most enchanting evening!
You'll laugh, you'll gasp, you won't believe your eyes!
3 dead in Cheapside fire.
Huh?
I mean, double the delight with New Illusion show!
Success, it seemed, was to come overnight, as if it could come in any other way.
This was the night the city could not sleep. Its mind still racing from the wonders it had seen.
No rest for Edwin or Iphigenia either. A nervous worry had kept them from their beds.
A worry they now discovered to be joyously unfounded.
And, as yet unknown to them, another figure stalked the moonlight.
Footfalls, soft as shadows, their actions no less impossible.
But thanks to the antics at the playhouse, had been pushed from the front page.
Jewel thieves strike city! Diamonds disappear from Duchess's ball!
No connection, none to the untrained eye. But those at Scotland Yard build their careers from joining unexpected dots. And the following morning, Edwin and Iphigenia were to receive an unexpected visit.
Oh, Jeremy.
Gentleman to see you, sir.
A gentleman?
Yes, sir. An inspector, sir, from Scotland Yard.
Send him in. Send him in.
Yes, sir. Mr. Sleight.
Yes.
Inspector McCaffrey, Scotland Yard.
And what can I do for you, Inspector?
Well, sir, that rather remains to be seen. Perhaps it would be better if I could speak to you both at once. Your good self and your partner.
My partner?
A Miss Hand.
Oh, my assistant.
Your partner? Yes.
Of course. Miss Hand. Miss Hand. I'm sure she's here somewhere. Please, take a seat. Thank you.
You called?
Oh, Miss Hand. Inspector McCaffrey.
It's Iphigenia Hand. It's a pleasure.
The inspector has come from Scotland Yard.
Oh, my. No problems here, I trust.
No, ma'am. Quite the opposite, in fact.
The opposite? I'm afraid I don't understand.
Did something happen last night at the theatre?
Not at the theatre, no.
Oh, well, I must say, you're being very mysterious, Inspector.
Edwin, don't be rude.
I assure you, sir, that was not my intent.
Of course it wasn't. Can we get you anything, Inspector? Tea?
No, not if it's any bother.
Oh, no, it's no bother at all. Percy! Percy!
I don't think Percy's in today.
Oh, of course not. Doris!
Yes, miss?
Tea for 3, please.
Of course, miss. Sugar, Inspector?
No, thank you.
Any cakes, miss?
No, thank you, Doris.
Any cakes for you, Inspector?
No, thank you.
Righto. Oh, any scones for you, miss?
That'll be all. Thank you, Doris.
Of course, miss. Thank you, miss. Thank you, Inspector.
Thank you, Doris.
Wonderful. So, if we're all settled...
Yes, Inspector, what exactly brings you here?
A request for your expertise. It's my heart. Not made by us, I feel duty bound to add, but a direct appeal from the Duchess of Bedford herself.
From who?
The Duchess of Bedford. Oh, gosh, I remember. Dreadful woman. Awful. Likes to patronise the Playhouse at their fundraising galas, with patronise being the operative word.
Aye, sir. Then you might also know that dreadful woman's patronage is the only thing keeping this theatre open. So, here we are.
My apologies, Inspector. Do go on.
You said you requested our expertise.
Aye, miss. Last night, I'm sure you're aware, was the Duchess's annual Michaelmas Ball.
Of course.
We talk of little else.
And no doubt you'll also know she was taking the opportunity to showcase the priceless Monte Rosa diamond, long thought lost, recently discovered and now vanished once again.
Vanished?
You mean stolen?
Perhaps, ma'am, but most certainly magicked away. And that, of course, is where you come in.
My word!
You can't think us responsible.
No, sir. In fact, who is not the question at all, but rather how. And that is why the Duchess wanted you as experts in the impossible.
Oh, well, you flatter us, Inspector.
Please, carry on.
Thank you. As I say, the culprit is not great mystery at all. She even left a calling card.
The Lady Electra, gentlewoman thief.
Oh, thank you, Inspector.
That's a pleasure, Inspector.
But how? How is the question at hand? During the daytime, Right there, Inspector. The jewels are locked behind 6 inches of steel and guarded by men with iron wells, Inspector.
Inspector, the jewel itself is set in an iron necklace, sealed in an airtight glass case and flanked by 2 stout guards that never leave its side. Isn't that right, Inspector?
Absolutely, Inspector. The evening goes without a hitch until finally the Duchess ascends the grand staircase, ready to raise a glass, thank her guest, and bid all a good night. But before she can speak, suddenly someone cries out. Do you have the transcript, Inspector?
Indeed I do, Inspector. The jewels, they cry, look at the diamond. And there it is, still within its glass case, but now burning hot as bright coals, bright as the fires of hell themselves. The Duchess screams, panic descends. But after a minute or two, the flame dies out. The glass case filled with smoke, but otherwise unharmed. And then the key...
That's right, the key! The key is fetched. The one key that has been held by the Duchess all evening. The case clears, and a cloud of billowing smoke seeping out. The smoke clears, and there within, the twisted remnants of the silver casing, but the diamond nowhere to be seen.
Gosh!
Very thorough, Inspectors.
Inspector?
Inspector.
Well, we'll see what we can do.
Truth be told, the Monte Rosa was no stranger to mayhem and mystery. Magic flowed through it as much as it did through the veins of Edwin or of Fidgenaya.
An observation the likes of which Mr. Sleight was wont to make, receiving sage nods and considered hummings from the constabulary.
And yet, when Miss Hand was unfortunate enough to comment...
Hardly surprising, of course. I'm sure you must have heard the damn jewel is cursed.
Cursed? Ma'am.
Well, that's what they say, isn't it?
I assure you, miss, that is not what they say at the yard.
Oh, I only meant, of course, I don't...
Please! There's no need to get hysterical.
I am not...
Calm yourself, woman! Can you believe that? You really needn't worry, Inspector. All this conjuring talk, it befuddles the enfeebled female mind. That's not my experience, Inspector, but hard for you to see it, sir. A great man, such as yourself. Oh, well, that's very kind of you to say so, Inspector. But they're talking to women in the force these days, if you'd believe it. Well, this is the modern age we live in. Do you know, I once saw a horse that was taught to perform Calculus. Nossa, is that saucer? Well, I swear it. Barnstable, I think it was. Well, and yet saw it with your own eyes, indeed. Straight from the horse's mouth.
Ahem! Gentlemen,
Don't ye worry your pretty little self about it, miss. We'll get to the bottom of this in a jiffy.
and they were not to hear from the inspector again for quite some time.
Indeed.
Such exchanges were not uncommon to the young Iphigenia.
Cursed as she was with the twin afflictions of youth and beauty, truly fatal to the fairer sex.
And though such slights still smarted, they would not distract her from the task at hand.
That's very good. Sleight at hand. Well, it's funny because I'm...
Oh, God.
Never mind. No, nothing was to distract her from,
The diamond!
The diamond, yes! The Monte Rosa diamond.
More information was required. That much was clear. And so, a visit was planned to the grieving Duchess, still inconsolable at her loss.
Perhaps you might wait outside for this one, Miss Hand. There's no need for us both to go in.
I thought you couldn't stand her.
No, but given the circumstances,
What circumstances?
it might just be easier if I were to alone. It would enable you, well, you would be available to
Please, Mr. Sleight. I insist, your ladyship.
Coming!
Thank you so much for meeting me.
Oh, not at all, Miss,
Hand, Mr. Iphigenia Hand. It's an honor, Mum.
I must say, I was hoping to speak to your superior, Mr. Sleight.
He sends his apologies.
Yes, I'm sure he's very sorry indeed.
Maybe we could begin
Such
with...
a charming man.
Yes. Now, to begin, if I could ask you...
And
about-
so handsome.
If I could just focus on the diamond, your ladyship.
As you wish.
Perhaps we could go right back to the very beginning.
The beginning.
If you could, and please, don't leave anything out.
Very well then. The beginning. Why, that takes us back almost 100 years. 1754. That's when the jewel first came to my family, or back 500 more if you want the very start. That's when the natives first discovered it. And of course, they'd been hacking each other apart over it ever since. All that changed once my great-grandfather came along, struck some landmark deal with the East India Company, and it was his reward.
But
Did
on the
have rather an odd name for it? Yes, you're absolutely right. The Blood Rock, on account of all those lives lost. And the reddish hue the stone possesses.
If I could just...
I agree, it looks far more pink to me, too. It was my great-grandfather who rechristened it the Monte Rosa and had it reset. A far more civilized title, I'm sure you'll agree.
And if
Then
I
it
could...
disappeared, yes. The curse, they called it. Seems no family could hold on to it for long. Lost at sea, somewhere in the South Atlantic, in a great storm some 5 years later.
And
my great-grandfather sunk with it, yes, that's right. Though why you dwell so callously on such tragedy is beyond me.
I'm
very well, I accept your apology. And don't grovel, girl, it's quite unseemly.
If I
And
could...
don't rush me either. Besides, that was the last anyone heard of it for almost a century, until quite out of the blue, a merchant sailor called at the door and requested an audience. He'd been trawling for his own lost cargo, and by some inextricable stroke of fortune, had discovered the stone instead. His cousin was a jeweler, you see, and he recognized the locket from some old sketches we'd had made at the time. Sketches I knew only too well.
And was there any...
Of course I didn't buy it from him. The jewel was mine to begin with, and he was happy enough to hand it over. He did suggest I could make some charitable donation as thanks, should I feel so inclined. And now, after all this mess, I thank the Lord I have not.
But...
Miss Hand, do not dare presume to put words in my mouth. Your dashing superior, Mr. Sleight, would never be so contemptuous.
If I could just...
Excuses. And don't forget, Miss Hand, It is my good fortune that directly funds yours. Should you wish to perform with your little performances at the theatre, I suggest this mystery is solved as quickly as possible.
Of course.
Nothing else mysterious about it now, except for the box, I suppose.
The box?
Just an ordinary box.
An absolutely ordinary box, Mr. Sleight.
And if you could demonstrate that for us, Miss Hand.
With pleasure.
Oh. And it was in such a box that her ladyship received the diamond.
A very similar box, Mr. Sleight. A box especially constructed for the purpose.
The purpose of protection.
Indeed. Observe, if you will, the delicate filigree that surrounds the stone. And to prevent oxidization, the jewels are hermetically sealed within the case.
Quite impenetrable.
Unquestionably impenetrable, Mr. Sleight.
And yet one need only say the magic words.
Grand larceny!
And the diamonds are nowhere to be seen.
Very impressive, Mr. Sleight. But this is just a trick, after all.
An illusion, Inspector.
And of course, the Duchess's box was nothing like this one.
Well, for illustrative purposes only.
We tore the original apart, had our best men deconstructing it piece by piece. No mirrors, no hidden compartments, no jewels are lodged in any deep corner. Any secrets, we would have discovered them.
Well, there was something unusual, though, wasn't there, Inspector?
In the base, canisters, grills, a ventilation system, all to do with protecting the silver. The Duchess had it all explained to her. It's to do with moisture or air pressure. Unusual, yes, but nothing untoward about it.
If you insist, Inspector. But well, if you'll indulge me, would you care to see another disappearing trick?
You're indulged, sir.
Observe.
Have you lost your senses?
Delicious. To solve this mystery, Inspector, you needn't consult jewelers, box makers, or even magicians. Merely your local confectioner.
A boiled sweet. That was Mr. Slight's theory. Sugar treated correctly, heated correctly, worked with at a precise temperature could set clear as glass, clear as diamond, should it not be handled too closely. The case then was a double blessing. It prevented any nearby from getting sticky fingers, but also, in his opinion, held the secret to the jewel's disappearance. The base did not remove moisture, but could deliver a jet of superheated steam from the canisters, enough to dissolve all trace of the sugar diamond, the real jewel, of course, having been switched at some earlier date.
Edwin, ever impressed by his own genius, expected to hear nothing but slack-jawed admiration from the yard, music to his ears, to be told,
Utter codswallop, sir, of the highest order.
Edwin was given no further opportunity to explain or finesse his theory, and quite unceremoniously was informed,
Duchess or no, your services are no longer required.
despite the mystery remaining resolutely unsolved.
And yet,
Oh, it's a letter for you, sir. It's just come through.
where from?
No address, sir. It's quite mysterious, sir.
Very
You'll want to
well.
read this.
Let's be having it.
Dear Inspector, your magical consorts hit closer to home than you might expect. Of course, the first amongst us to sugar the pill were chemists, not confectioners, a way of making their medicines more palatable. But to swallow this story, you'll need an iron stomach, not just a sweet tooth. Potassium, sir, looks just like tarnished silver when freshly cut, but is far more volatile a thing. Exposed to water, it burns, blazes like the sun, quite hot enough to melt your sugar crystal in a matter of moments. Your most humble of servants, Gaslight Jackson.
Gaslight Jackson? What kind of a ludicrous name is that?
Gaslight Jackson, lantern-jawed, steely-eyed scourge of villainy. A blazing beacon of insight and ingenuity.
Is that really what it says? Lantern-jawed and steely-eyed? Except, of course, he's never been seen without his mask, or any closer than 100 yards away.
Must be a most penetrative gaze.
Indeed.
6'6" at least, gravel tones,
Steel and gravel.
and a rugged, craggy...
Is this a character sketch or a geological survey?
Your point, Miss Hand?
Well, it's absurd, isn't it? These fantasies the press creates. He could be a hunchbacked oaf or a pimple-faced schoolboy for all we know.
Yes, or Lantern Jordan's steely-eyed.
Well, I suppose. Whoever he is, most fortunate he should arrive to save the day just as the Yard and the Duchess were losing patience with us. His reasoning seemed much along the same lines as yours.
Yes, most fortunate indeed. Nothing, of course, compared to...
The Lady Electra, gentlewoman thief, enigmatic, enchanting, dastardly and desirable in equal measure.
A brilliant mind, however warped. Potassium and a boiled sweet.
It's quite remarkable, yes.
Your family made their money in the sugar trade, did they not?
What little they ever did. Not that I would have had any
Don't
notion.
apologize. We both should have deduced it sooner. Ingenious, all the same. The femme fatale, whose scandalous and secretive nature has led many to believe that she may be some well-known, though potentially deformed, member of the aristocracy.
My point exactly. Pure conjecture, not a shred of evidence in any of it.
Well, then again, you can't fault the logic. Beautiful women don't hide away. No, they must be seen. It is their raison d'etre, to be admired, adored.
And she is admired, is she not?
But not for her beauty. If she were Helen of Troy, she wouldn't have to go to all this trouble. She'd have all the attention she needed. And believe me, I don't look unkindly upon an unattractive woman, Miss Hand. No, quite the opposite, in fact. For through their plainness, they find a far greater motivation.
I had no idea you were such an expert on the female mind.
No expert, only an enthusiastic student. Oh, please, you needn't take offense on behalf of your lesser blessed sisters. Well, in fact, this is just my point. Of course you wouldn't understand. For one such as you would clearly never wear a mask.
What makes you so sure?
Well, for one as beauteous as
So
you.
now you flatter me by saying I have no ambition. That was your argument, was it not?
No, I believe...
Please, much depends upon your diagnosis. Am I a show pony for display or an old cart horse to be trotted out to work?
Oh, no, I never
Shall
said...
you put ribbons in my mane or blinkers over my eyes, just so long as you may find the best use for me?
I apologize.
I am
misspoke.
more
I
than
never
set
intended.
dressing, am I not?
Okay.
More than an elegant solution.
Of course.
And we are partners, are we not?
Yes,
Equals?
indeed.
And yet we are sleight and hand, not hand and sleight.
That's just a saying. You can't
No,
go...
because clearly one must not put the horse before the ass.
Oh, please.
But I think I might have an early night. Wouldn't want to look too tired for the crowds, after all. Unforgivable in my position. Good night, Mr. Sleight.
Well, good night, Miss Hand.
Tensions grew between Hand and Sleight, and soon their bickering began to make its way on stage.
If men be truly gentle and heedful of their ladies' needs,
And what need would that be, Mr. Sleight?
with tempers temperamental, pray caution now as you...
Indeed, to caution any man who deems his lady needs him.
Miss Hand, you...
No, call it not misandry, merely sense. And ladies, vow to treat your husbands hence. Pray always flatter, always be demure. Your triumphs his, and all his failings yours. Remember, count your blessings, and be sure to blow him kisses as he walks out the door. Ladies, I give you the housewife's delight.
You cannot just decide. You have no right.
The audience were entertained, were they not?
But that does not give you carte blanche.
Oh. Another trick. If I could take a note from your wallet, Mr. Sleight.
Of course, Miss Hand. A trick all husbands will be familiar with. In a matter of moments, she can make its entire contents disappear.
And yet I bow to the master, Mr. Sleight, who with his presence alone can make whole rooms of ladies vanish.
Very good. Now, for this next section of our performance, it is vital that Miss Hand remains absolutely silent. This has no bearing at all on the trick, merely my sanity.
I believe what Mr. Sleight
Alas,
means
no,
is...
it seems that would require a miracle beyond even my talents. Oh, can it be true? Ladies and gentlemen, my greatest achievement, the 8th wonder of the world, a silent woman.
I cannot believe you.
Well, the audience were entertained, were they not?
That is not the point.
Then pray, tell me what is, Miss Hand.
I will not be treated like... I refuse to... This can't go on!
Well, I agree. I do. I agree. I apologize.
I'm sorry too.
Believe me, you mean far more to me than just a mere... And if I have struggled, it is only because... Miss Hand, these past few weeks, I can tell you without any hesitation...
But paper, sir, I thought you'd want to see it.
Very well.
Chaos in the capital, London once more thrown into turmoil by...
Jeremy, whatever are you doing?
Sorry, sir, I don't know what... Come over me, sir.
Thrown into turmoil by another inexplicable act of brazen befuddlement, perpetrated by none other than the elusive... Of course, who else? Miss Hand?
Yes, Mr. Sleight.
Oh, I believe this may interest you as well.
Too kind.
Yes, Sleight Hand was soon to learn that theirs were not the only problems in the city.
Overnight, the Lady Electra had struck again, and as her notoriety spread, so too her crimes became more ingenious, more audacious, more baffling.
More baffling still were the nature of said crime.
If you could even call them crimes at all.
Indeed, pranks, perhaps.
Jokes, tricks.
Illusions.
Illusions, yes. And yet, an illusion suggests something unreal.
And while these acts were inexplicable, they most certainly did occur.
As many would bear witness.
Ascot, Miss Hand.
The highlight of this season, Mr. Sleight.
The ladies in their finery.
The gentlemen in their finery.
The horses in their finery.
The rabbits in their finery.
I beg your pardon.
Indeed. May I take your hat, Mr. Sleight?
Too kind, Miss Hand.
For you see, so it was when all the gentlemen in the royal box removed them, placing each, as was the custom, upon the ledge before them.
There was a shuffling.
A snuffling.
And to their amazement...
Rabbits!
Rabbits! Within everyone.
The young queen stands appalled by such effrontery.
When, quite without warning, a whole host of hares dashes forth beneath her underskirt.
Ah! Pandemonium ensues!
And when finally one of the blighters is caught, the legend on the collar reads...
The Lady Electra declares the game's afoot.
And again, less than a fortnight later...
The House of Commons, no less.
The usual crying and clamouring.
Baying and braying.
Cheers, jeers, and assorted waffling.
Bah!
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 Bah! And it takes quite a while, far longer in truth than any sane person would find credible.
To find somehow the back rows were now entirely filled with actual sheep.
Bah!
Affixed to their underside, a note that begs,
The Lady Electra prays you pull the wool from your eyes.
5 nights after that, at the Midas Club on Threadneedle Street.
Where the city's best and brightest come to win what they can't spend and lose what they don't need.
To empty bottles worth more than most men's houses.
To toast their ingenuity at being blessed with such good fortune.
And most of all, to play cards.
Here, couched in dark oak and oxblood leather, hearts are broken and diamonds snatched.
Men are beaten with clubs, or buried with spades.
All with the finest trappings of civilization.
All to scratch the itch of want for those who want for nothing.
All for the win.
Always the win, above all things.
And yet, on the night in question when their hands are dealt.
Poker is the game.
A crass Yankee invention, but popular nonetheless.
Each man looks to his cards.
And feels that shiver.
That tingle.
That prickling of hairs.
Quickening of pulse.
The thump-thump animal heart straining against its Savile Row straitjacket.
But the face betrays nothing.
The benefits of breeding.
They raise and counter-raise, raise and raise again.
Until, with a great ruddy-cheeked cry, each man declares,
Royal flush!
As each man lays down an identical hand.
Panic.
Confusion.
Accusations.
Voices raised.
Tempers fraught.
Explanations demanded.
By men well versed in demanding them.
Until, in a fit of rage, the expensively felted table is tipped over.
And there, pinned to the underside, a solitary card declares,
The Lady Electra wishes you bon chance.
remarkable, I must say, quite remarkable.
And yet, baffling as such acts were, they could not be impossible.
The notion that they might be the only impossibility.
Given time, given thought, given the correct process of reason and deduction, logical progression and lateral leaps.
Slowly but surely, the pieces would begin to fall into place. If not the who, or even the why, then gradually the how.
And yet, each time, just as Sleight Hand were preparing to share the brilliance of their insight with the yard...
Oh, another letter for you, sir.
Another one!
Yes, sir, from the Gaslight gentleman, sir.
Very well, let's have it.
And each time, with the same superior tone, the casual genius.
Providing the seemingly irrelevant tidbit that would somehow provide the key to the whole affair, declaring...
Look, Inspector, to the 3 newly replaced screws in the far right corner, and the Duke of Cornwall's walnut allergy.
Or...
Surely you haven't overlooked the June solstice, and the Right Honourable Member for Chorley East's rugby accident.
Or...
If your porcine officers could raise their heads from the trough for one moment, they would surely realise the dealer was left-handed, and the butler on duty had family visiting from Catalonia.
And each time, the news would trickle down to Mr. Sleight and...
Of course. It's so obvious, Miss Hand. Do they listen to me?
To us, Mr. Sleight.
No, they don't listen at all.
Must be very frustrating to be so overlooked.
Yes, you can only imagine.
Indeed I can.
This Gaslight Jackson, what do you make of him?
I don't know. I hadn't given him much thought.
Oh? As dangerous as the Lady Electra in my book, and we must find both of them before the authorities do, if we're to retain the Duchess's support.
I suppose. Don't you find him impressive? His insights into...
To a layman, perhaps.
The deductive reasoning. I'd say he's a professional.
Perhaps, or a hack that got lucky. Time will tell, Miss Hand. Time will tell.
Indeed it would. But for now, society buzzed with talk of a second mystery woman returned to the capital.
Miss Amelia Arkwright, the queen of the jungle and original Girl Gone Wild.
Daughter of a mining heiress and a British ambassador.
Or, should one believe the rumors, a Flemish privateer, an Afghan prince, or the Archbishop of Canterbury.
Born in Shanghai, christened on the banks of the Amazon, educated in the Congo.
Now, after 16 years in the wilderness, her parents returned to London, and Amelia's indoctrination into polite society began in earnest. The young Amelia had seen more than her fair share of bizarre rituals and occult superstitions, but nothing that could prepare her for negotiating the silverware or passing the port at a Kensington Palace dinner.
But nothing gets monkey blood out of a Nepalese bridal gown. Oh, I'm sorry, Your Excellency. Would you like a taste? Of course, back in the Andes, we drank it straight from the vulture's skull.
Amelia lasted precisely 1 season in the wastes of London before the call of the wild grew too loud to ignore. And she scurried back to the 4 corners of the earth without so much as a backward glance. Now, another 16 years on, she returns for a second homecoming, presenting artifacts and recounting exploits at the Royal Academy.
And that, gentlemen, is how I came to be engaged to the High Shaman of the Eastern Plains. a direct descendant, or some would claim reincarnation of Ursa Pad, the bear god of Peru. Daddy, I said, if I wed this man, I shall become a deity made flesh, the living embodiment of the eternal spirit. He said, yes, Amelia, but if you marry an Englishman, you may have the service at St. Martin's, and your mother can serve her pink lemonade on the lawn. Such are the great philosophical struggles of our age.
Amelia cut a strange figure at the academy, as alien in her own way as any of her keepsakes and curios, the stuffed shirts and stiff lips hanging on her every word.
And now, gentlemen, for my final act, my final exhibit, I should say. I've shown you many tidbits and trinkets from my travels, but nothing thus far in the flesh.
And she gestured then to a tall wooden shipping crate at the back of the room.
My friends, I'm afraid I just couldn't bring myself to leave my love behind, and so, here he is, the great Ursa Pad!
Flinging the case open, there, saints above, is a Goliath of a man. A square-jawed Incan chieftain built like a mountain.
Gentlemen, be not afraid. My love is in a deep, deep trance, making him placid as the dead.
Amelia takes a bundle of dried herbs. Singeing them on an oil lamp beside her. A pungent, acrid stench beginning to fill the little room.
These sacred herbs are the only things to calm him. Woo, 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 woo. Sleep well, my love.
And smiles benignly, despite the audience's alarm, as thick black coils of smoke begin to coil out from within the packing crate as this really is quite a lot of smoke, Miss Hand. Perhaps you could...
Gentlemen, calm yourselves. All is quite well. Immolation is the very noblest end for members of the tribe, and his ancestors await him. But the hour grows late, and I must leave you too. So, if you have enjoyed yourselves this evening, remember, you have in truth been listening to the exploits of the Lady Electra!
And with that, she let out a great cackle and opened wide the crate door, an inferno blazing within it. Men would swear they saw her step inside and, smiling, slam the door behind her, but in a moment, she is gone. A moment later, and the fellows are on their feet. The fire is soon stamped out, but as they prise open the warped and blackened crate, they find it empty. No chieftain, no Amelia, nothing save a few singed scraps of cloth.
Right! I want a perimeter setting up around this whole block. Men on every corner, and will somebody please find what she's taken? Mr. Sleight, I don't believe your presence was requested.
An oversight on your part, Inspector, but I'm prepared to forgive it.
I've got no time for you tonight.
Your men won't find her on the streets, you realize that.
And that's not where they're looking. The corner of every rooftop, Mr. Sleight. We found a window ajar right behind that shipping crate, and a set of footprints in the snow heading out over the slate. We'll have her soon enough.
The only thing you'll have is a bill from the Academy for property damage. As your men are currently discovering, no one can walk on slates that old without breaking them, not if they were light as a bird. Besides which, the ice crystals show those footprints were planted hours before the talk. You've been played, Inspector.
Well, how else did she get out then? There were men downstairs all evening.
Quite simple. She never left.
What?
Mere misdirection, Inspector. I assure you your culprit is still in the building.
No, there's no way she could have... Jesus Christ. Wentworth, Martin, with me now.
You're welcome, Inspector. There's really no shame in asking for help.
Mr. Sleight?
Miss Hand?
Oh.
Whatever are you doing here?
Oh, I was passing by, just by chance, in fact, on my way from... I noticed all the commotion and slipped in downstairs. You?
Yes, yes, much the same. It's funny that I didn't see you when... Oh, never mind.
So, care to fill me in?
The long and the short of it was this. No sign of the Lady Electra could be found inside or out, and the constabulary was still no closer to apprehending her.
One matter, that of the disappearing chieftain, was resolved soon enough.
Of course! It isn't a chieftain at all, but a waxwork in the fire.
It's just like the melting diamond. Oh, she's getting bigger, bolder. Who knows what she'll do next?
Who knows, indeed.
The Yard believed they did, identifying her next target all too quickly.
The Madonna of the Mount. A vast oil canvas from none other than the great Leonardo da Vinci. A masterpiece described in many records of the day, but never seen. Until it was discovered, walled up within a remote chapel near Modena. Loaned to Queen Victoria as a gesture of diplomatic goodwill, it was to form the centerpiece of a new exhibition at the National Gallery.
How she would go about it, the police had no idea, but they were certain she would try to make it hers. Despite their best efforts, they knew in their hearts only one man, and one man alone, stood between her and her goal.
Gaslight Jackson!
Brooding, enigmatic man Crumpet, Gaslight Jackson, had come to realize something.
It was all a sham!
No, perhaps sham was too harsh a word, but to borrow a term from Sleight Hand's vocabulary, it had all been an act of misdirection. After scouring their catalogue in great detail, the fellows could find nothing stolen from the Academy, and further investigations into the whereabouts of the genuine Miss Arkwright suggested she was still...
quite happily gallivanting through deepest, darkest Peru.
And so, Jackson began thinking back, right back to the very beginning, and...
The Duchess's diamonds!
Again, there was no physical evidence that the jewel had ever been rediscovered. Only the Duchess's strange story of the mysterious merchant sailor and his cousin, the jeweler, who had identified them.
Neither of whom can now be traced. Had they ever been refound at all, then? Far easier
He supposed.
to make something vanish if it had never truly been there in the first place.
The other acts.
The rabbits at Ascot and the sheep at Parliament.
Nothing had been gained or taken there despite the opportunity.
Even the card trick at the Midas Club.
Though each man duped was furious not to have won anything, neither of them left with their wallets any lighter.
So, the Lady Electra is no gentlewoman thief after all.
And then he saw it!
It isn't riches that she seeks, but notoriety. She wishes to create a legend.
And now the missing Leonardo fitted an altogether different pattern.
Who can actually account for its existence?
No one had yet seen the painting in the country. Plenty of gossip, rumour, speculation.
But as for hard proof, any solid record.
And so a painting appears.
Or is said to.
No one is to be allowed in the room while the painting is being hung. In fact, no one, not even the gallery manager, shall see it until its grand public unveiling. Jackson could see it now.
The curtain falls to reveal a bare wall or an empty frame.
And amongst the chaos and confusion, no one would stop to think that perhaps the picture had never been there at all.
It's audacious, brazen, inspired.
But no match for Gaslight Jackson. The stage was set, but this time...
This time, I will be ready.
All society is present at the gallery.
All bar Sleight Hand, whose invitations must have been misplaced.
Doris, didn't know you be here.
Oh, Jeremy, they asked if I could give a hand with the tea. It's quite a do.
Doris, wonderful to see you. I trust you're taking good care of our Mr. Sleight.
I believe that's my daughter's job nowadays. Mr. Baker, Lady Philomena Hand, Iphigenia's mother.
Amelia, charmed. Sorry about the, just arrived this morning. Our ship capsized out of Dover and we rode up the Thames on porpoises.
Oh, Miss Arkwright, such a pleasure. We've all heard so much about you.
Captain Fitzwilliam Montgomery Hand, my lady. Served with your father in Nagport.
Oh, marvellous. I would love to
Mind
know.
your back, side of beef coming through.
Captain, you were saying?
Ichabod Hand of the Sawbridge Hands. We sort your late husband's arrangements.
Yes, of course. Captain.
All right, kiddies, who wants to see a trick? Gather round.
Excuse me, Captain Hand.
Hand,
really now.
give me hand. Read palm, tell fortune.
Yes, let go of me, shoo. Oh, Captain.
Right. Is everything set to Mr. Jackson's specifications?
Just as you requested, Inspector. So everyone here really is.
Aye, one of ours. Scrub up nicely, don't they?
So they did. For these glamorous great and good were not, in fact, the chattering classes after all, but highly trained undercover officers of the law. Officers who at a given moment would in perfect unison drop to the floor, leaving only one person standing. A solitary, slender figure in a crimson crinoline, a decorative fan held up high, obscuring her face. The Lady Electra, I presume.
If she is surprised by her discovery, she does her best to hide it, reaches into her purse to produce a small vial, which she swiftly sends dashing to the floor. A cloud of billowing smoke fills the room, and in an instant, she is gone.
The officers, clumped together, give quick pursuit, and convinced they see a flash of her at the end of the long hallway, turn right and give chase. Jackson, however, knows better, knows that they have in fact seen her reflection in the grand ornate mirror at the corridor's end. So left he goes. Turning a corner, he spies an open door leading up to the rooftops, up to the darkening skies and icy slate. But no! She's played this hand before, and besides, she'd never be so careless as to leave a door ajar. He takes the closed door instead. A small, spiraling service staircase that winds down to the sewers. A labyrinth down there, a warren. Yes, that's where he'd find her. So close now, he can taste it.
The door slams shut behind him, and Jackson feels all the light sucked from his world, the putrid reek of the hot, wet air making him gag. But then he hears it, the pitter-patter of footprints echoing off the dripping walls. One breath to get his bearings, and the chase is on. Little by little, he can feel himself gaining on her, his eyes gradually adjusting to the murk. And there, up ahead, a pinprick of light that grows and grows. A grate, an exit pipe, a means of escape. Electra knows she might just make it.
But can he let her, having come this far? Her silhouette now, right within his sight.
Wait!
But this hand?
Mr. Sleight! No, you can't have been. The Lady Electra! All this time!
And Gaslight Jackson! You! Lantern Jordan, steely-eyed?
Yes, well,
You knew all along, knew that I was...
No, I didn't know. I deduced what Electra was planning, but I would never have dreamt
Oh,
that...
so I got something past you after all.
What is this, Edwin?
You wouldn't understand.
Try me! What is your purpose? Do you hold us women in such contempt that you look to discredit or ridicule our sex?
Oh, Fitzgerald, no, I never
What
intended...
then? Is it simply just another trick, another act of misdirection, something no one would suspect?
Please.
Well, what then? Why? What possible reason?
Well, and I might ask you the same. To outman the menfolk, I suppose. Emasculate them further, beat them at their own game.
To be heard! With all your powers, surely that is simple enough. To be heard, Edwin. Do you think I wanted this? Do you think if I had any hope of speaking in my own voice under my own name, I'd humiliate myself in such a way? But each time I spoke, I was shouted down by you, by the yard, by anyone I wanted to listen. Please, I am well aware of how ridiculous I must look, but no, it is born only out of desperation. But do not insult me further to think I would stoop to this if I had any other choice.
I apologize, Miss Hand. I believe we have both misjudged each other.
Explain yourself, Edwin. You owe me that.
I told you once, though you won't thank me for repeating it, that a plain woman must work harder than one blessed with beauty. Well, imagine then the difficulties a plain man must face should he seek the same ends. Of course, I knew I could never be a beauty in the flesh. I'm well aware of that, but without once showing my face, I had the whole city comparing me to Cleopatra. Of course, it's far more than that. Electra was everything that I could never be, so effortlessly. The toast of the town, the center of attention. Whereas the more I clamoured, the more they looked away. I owe you so much, Miss Hand, but you only further proved my point. Only hiding behind a beautiful and brilliant woman could I enjoy any kind of success.
That isn't true. You are brilliant, Edwin. You don't need to be...
But I do need it. It's who I am, who I should have been.
The grass is always greener, my lady.
Indeed it is, Miss Hand. Gaslight Jackson. Iphigenia.
Jenny, please.
Jenny. So where do we go from here? I will come quietly, but only if it is you that brings me in.
But which of you am I to arrest? Besides, if these items never really existed, then the Lady Electra, wherever she may be, has surely committed no crime.
Well, that is quite the quandary.
And the sewers are quite the maze down here. There's no way to tell where she might have got to.
True. But what of the theatre, the Duchess?
Well, I'd say our silence is worth even more than our success, lest she want the whole world to know how she was taken in.
We will have to tell them something, though.
Of course. But then, a great magician never reveals all their secrets. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we've been playing quite the game at your expense. Over the past few weeks and months, Mr. Sleight and I have taken our own brand of impossible feats out of the theatre and into the heart of the city itself.
The purported crimes of the Lady Electra were in fact committed by our own Miss Iphigenia Hand, with flair, skill, and daring hitherto unseen by any conjurer to walk this earth, male or female.
Meanwhile, Mr. Sleight adopted the moniker of Gaslight Jackson, feeding our great friends at Scotland Yard helpful scraps of information to keep their investigations on the right track.
And we thank them wholeheartedly for their sportsmanship and cooperation.
If you feel deceived, then we apologize. Though it is an occupational hazard of our craft, no real harm was done, no injury sustained to any person, though some egos may have been bruised.
We thank you deeply, most sincerely, for your precious time, and hope you will come and see us again soon.
Pray watch us close. Those keen of eye may some small secret understand.
Those simple folk just see the smoke. They miss the switch
The sleight
of hand.